to the year 1762 to be exact. At that time, the Dutch East India Company was the biggest trading company in the world, with hundreds of ships sailing back and forth between Europe and Asia. And one of these ships was the Amstelveen, named after a village near Amsterdam. And in 1762, the Amstelveen set sail from the Netherlands and arrived safely in the East Indies. The next year, it began its return voyage. Loaded with sugar, spices, and sappinwood, it headed for the Persian Gulf. But it never reached its destination. It ran aground and capsized about 600 kilometers from this spot near the Cape of Ras Madraka. Of the 100 people aboard, only 30 survived the tragic shipwreck, and one of them was a naval officer called Cornelis Eycks. He and his company reached the shore and began a trip on foot over 500 kilometers, and they walked for over more than a month before they arrived in Muscat. And Eycks kept a journal of his trip, his personal account of the stranding of the ship and the trek that followed. And his notes were published 3 years later, but they were soon forgotten. In 1997, however, they were rediscovered in France. They are an impressive account of a survival trek through a large desert area, twice the size of the Netherlands, a region where no European had previously set foot. And Eycks' story has fascinated writers and filmmakers, and in a couple of hours I'll be attending the premiere of a documentary about the search for the wreck of the Amstelveen. In Oman, as in the Netherlands, the story has captured people's imagination. It's a moving tale from our shared history. Moreover, the story shows that some things haven't changed since 1763. Because today, just as then, Oman occupies a prominent place in world trade. Muscat, Eycks wrote, is considered the most powerful country of the Arabian principalities. Dutch merchants saw it as a crossroads where goods from different directions changed hands. And 250 years later, Oman is once again a strong, prosperous country. A country that is moving forward boldly to consolidate its position in the world market. And if you look at the map of the world, you could even see Oman as a crossroad between the three continents, Europe, Asia, and Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, the story of the Amstelveen shows how strong our age-old trade relations are. And the East Indian Company opened a trading post in Muscat at the invitation of the Oman almost 100 years before the wreck of the Amstelveen. But the post was closed after only 3 years. It turned out that the Dutch were no match for the Omani merchants. But trade didn't dry up. However, on the contrary, it was so lively in the days of Cornelis Eycks that some people in Muscat even spoke Dutch. Relations stayed friendly in later years too, and in the 19th century, the Netherlands and Oman signed a free trade agreement. And today, in spite of hard times in our part of the world, our economic ties are still flourishing. Dutch companies like Shell have established long-term partnerships in Oman. And our common maritime tradition helps to sustain our ties. For example, the Netherlands offers training courses for Omani sailors. And your country is a major partner of the port of Rotterdam. And as you may know, Rotterdam is the largest port outside Asia. Many of the goods destined for the European market pass through Rotterdam along the way. For example, much of this region's oil and gas ends up in Rotterdam's refineries. And of course, our trade no longer consists of sugar, spice, and sappinwood, as the days of Cornelis Eycks. He lived in a time when our languages didn't know the words logistics or supply chains. And in this respect, the world has changed a lot in the past 250 years. In today's world, distances have shrunk. Goods now move even faster around the globe, and real-time communication has become the norm, and these trends are ongoing. Today, Rotterdam is the gateway to Europe for oil, steel, and containers full of consumer goods. And in this region, Oman is rapidly positioning itself to play the same central role. In 2013, our seaports and airports are far more than places to load and unload goods. They are increasingly play the role of global transport hubs, connecting the Netherlands with the blooming global city regions in the world. So our global transport hubs not only serve to ease the flow of goods through the supply chain, our global hubs connect us to the world and serve as an engine to our country. Still, transport and logistics are at the very heart of our economy. Logistics contributes about $50 billion to our GDP. They give us a strong economy. With only 16 million inhabitants, we account for almost 4% of global trade. And we will be investing more in logistics in the next several years because we know we can make it even more innovative and efficient. And therefore, innovation in supply chain management gets the highest priority in the Netherlands. Also in the future, we aim to rank the top of the world in logistics. And the Dutch Institute for Advanced Logistics is leading our ambitious innovation program. Its chairman, Mr. Willem Heren, will highlight the main topics of our innovation roadmap later in this conference. And the role of our global transport hubs will only increase. Because the world is changing so rapidly, we have to use our infrastructure as effectively as possible. And the pressure on us is growing to make the smartest possible choices between transport by air, by road, by rail or by water, or to find the smartest possible communication. And to keep pace with change, our transport also has to be more sustainable. Of course, we cannot do this alone. Our companies have to join forces and share information, both with each other and with partners around the world. And this explains why our relationship with Oman is so important to us. It explains, for example, why the Port of Rotterdam is so closely involved in the development of the Port of Sohar. Sohar's new port is in fact a joint venture. The Omani government and the Port of Rotterdam each own a 50% share of it. And for us in the Netherlands, Sohar is the gateway to the Middle East and the rest of Asia. So partnerships with the Port of Rotterdam can be important in helping many players gain a stronger position in logistics and supply chains. And I'm sure that the CEO of the Port of Rotterdam Authority, Mr. Hans Smits, will have more to say about this later today. And Dutch-Omani ties are not limited to ports and logistics. Dozens of Dutch companies are active here in the host of fields from airport baggage handling to water management in the desert and from waste processing to cultural exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, Cornelis Eyckx couldn't have known in 1763 that people would still remember his name today. But today, as in Eyck's time, two cultures are meeting each other that know world trade inside and out. Two cultures that realize how much they have to gain by working together, and two countries that recognize the urgency of innovation in a changing world. Perhaps Dutch isn't spoken anymore in Muscat, as it was in 1763, but we are both fluent in the language of world trade. When it comes to logistics, the Netherlands and Oman form an unbeatable team. And thanks in part to Cornelis Eyckx, we are old friends, communicating on the safe wavelength. And I hope that Eyck's story will inspire us to keep investing in our close commercial ties. Ties that both our countries' economies can build on, that foster innovation in logistics and supply chains, and that contribute to our flourishing world trade. Thank you very much.